Okay, so we have two people on two different planets. Gertrude and Lee on planet A and planet B. They both have really, really powerful telescopes. So when Gertrude waves at Lee, it'll take 8 minutes for Lee to see Gertrude waving. And then Lee can wave back, and it'll take 8 minutes for Gertrude to see that. In the case of Gertrude waving at Lee, this is a future event for Lee because it'll take 8 minutes for Lee to see it. But there's nothing Lee can do to stop that. It's already predetermined. However, while that is a future event for Lee, it also serves as a past event for Gertrude. So, in this case, future is equal to electromagnetism approaching a receiver. So a future event for Lee of Gertrude waving, Gertrude waves, that is limited, that information is limited by the speed of light. Similarly, at the same time, the past is equal to electromagnetism leaving a transmitter. In this case, Gertrude waving is the transmitter because he's transmitting light information. Now, it's important to state that in day-to-day life of us just walking down a street and seeing a car rolling by, while that car rolling by is a future event and it's already predetermined, we can't really notice the difference. So the delay is not there because we're in such small scales. But even in this case, this car passing by is a future event to us as we look around. So this is actually the way information itself is transmitted. That light is going in all directions, and its movement can be measured in reference to other objects of mass or other receiving and transmissions of electromagnetism to determine its location. So, in the case of Gertrude's waving to Lee, Gertrude's waving, and actually any information itself that Gertrude sends, represents a future event for Lee. But simultaneously, it also represents a past event for Gertrude. And it will always be electromagnetic radiation through which information is ultimately conveyed. This invokes the need for a metric, and that is where space-time comes into play. This is where things get interesting. Light and space-time. How those two things measure each other. In any case, Gertrude's waving or any events really on planet A are predetermined events to Lee. However, there are things that Lee can do to influence how the future unfolds. So Lee can also send a message saying stop waving. And then Gertrude can stop waving. But then that is also determined. The Gertrude's stopping of waving, if he decides to, is already determined. There's nothing that Lee can do until Lee sends a message to communicate back and forth. So why this is important isn't actually to make your life meaningless. It provides us a model to give and metricize space-time and demonstrate how space and time are one entity and how they will be measured against light. space and time, space will be described as delta d, the change in distance, which varies directly and in constants with the change in time. This will ultimately be measured by light, or c is equal to 1 over space-time. And we'll show in our next video how this is that and this. Just as you have watched this video and the scrolling little bar has gone in elapsed time, this is ultimately what space-time light is, and it's a concept I'm coining as Einstein, or CT equals 1.